students, welcome to Success Hub Media. This is Mathematics Made Easy Part 3. In Part 1 and Part 2, we learned the basics, the foundation of mathematics that will help us in understanding very complex mathematics and how to solve complex mathematical problems. So this is Part 3. If you haven't watched Part 1 and Part 2, it is highly recommended you go and watch Part 1 and Part 2. You can find the links to Part 1 and Part 2 in the description below. Alright, in this Part 3, we'll be learning how to solve equations. And for you to solve equations, there are certain things you need to understand. They are, what is the coefficient of x? What is coefficient of x? You need to understand what is meant by this phrase, coefficient of x. You need to understand when to divide both sides by the coefficient of x. You need to understand how to divide both sides by the coefficient of x. So starting with the first item, what is coefficient of x? What is meant by this phrase? Coefficient of x is any number that is married with x with a multiplication sign. Take a look at this number 1. We have 2x equals to 6. 2 is married to x with an invisible multiplication sign. In part 2 of our Mathematics Made Easy, we established that when a number is frozen with another number or alphabet, when a number is frozen with an alphabet, there is invisible multiplication sign marrying them together. So in this case, 2 is married to x, so 2 is the coefficient of x, or you can say coefficient of x is 2, okay? Look at another equation, 5x equals to 25. What is the coefficient of x here? It is 5. 5 is married to x. Look at another example. We have 4p equals to 24. You may want to ask, why are we having p here? Why not x? We just use x here because x is a very popular alphabet in mathematics. Understand that whatever applies to x applies to any other alphabet. Alphabets in mathematics are referred to as variables, and the same rule applies to every one of them, okay? So we could also have 4m equals to any number. It could be any alphabet, okay? So in this case, the coefficient of p is 4. Now, the number in the equation below are not coefficient of x. Take note. Say, for example, we have 2 plus x equals to 6. You cannot say 2 is the coefficient of x because 2 is related to x with addition sign, not multiplication sign. Good. Look at another example, 5 minus x. You cannot say 5 is the coefficient of x because 5 is related to x with a subtraction sign. It is not multiplication sign. Look at another example, p plus 4 equals 24. You cannot say 4 is the coefficient of x because 4 and p are related with addition sign, not multiplication sign. Now, when do we divide both sides by the coefficient of x? You divide both sides by the coefficient of x when x is frozen with a number or another alphabet with a multiplication sign and the combination is equal to another number or expression. Don't worry about this big grammar. By the time we solve examples, you have a very perfect understanding. Now look at examples. We have 2x equals to 6. Because x has a coefficient which is 2 and is equals to a number, so we can divide both sides by the coefficient of x. Sometimes it could be equal to an expression such as, let's say, 6 plus m or 6 plus maybe some other expressions, okay? So for you to divide number by coefficient of x, it must be in this format. Take note of this format. It must be exactly like this. Look at another example, 5x equals 25. You can see that these two formats are exactly the same. So it doesn't matter if the variable changes to something else. But as you can see, this 4p equals 24, it matches exactly with this format because 4 and p are related with multiplication sign, okay? And is equals to a number. So these are the conditions. Or let me say, this is the format that an equation would be before you say divide both sides by the coefficient of a particular alphabet, okay? All right, note, you cannot divide both sides by the coefficient of x in the following cases. In these examples, you have 2 plus x equals to 6. You cannot divide both sides by the coefficient because in the first place, 2 is not even the coefficient of x. Look at this one. 5 is not even the coefficient of x, so you cannot say divide both sides by the coefficient of x in this kind of scenario because it does not match this format. Okay, p is not coefficient of, 4 is not coefficient of p, so you cannot say divide both sides by the coefficient of p. It does not match this format. All right, so now the next question is, how do we divide both sides by the coefficient of x? We are going to learn this by taking examples. Note, use the number that is frozen with x to divide both sides. Examples, let's say we have 2x equals to 6. The number that is frozen with x in this case is 2, or you can just say coefficient of x is 2. Okay, we've already established that. So 2x equals to 6. How do we solve it? We say divide both sides by the coefficient of x. Okay, so we'll write the expression the way it was given to us, 2x equals to 6. Then we'll divide both sides by 2, divide the left side by 2, divide the right side by 2. So this is what we mean by divide both sides by the coefficient of what? X. Okay, 2 divided by 2 will give us 1. So we now have 1x equals to 3. But in mathematics, we don't like writing 1x, 1m, 1n. We've already established that in part 2 of our lecture series, which I've referred you to. So we just write x equals to 3. The same thing applies if we have 5x equals to 25. So the number that is frozen with x in this case is 5. Okay, so we'll write the equation. We'll say divide both sides by the coefficient of x. So in this case we have 5x equals to 25, which is exactly the expression we are given. We'll divide the left side by 5, which is coefficient of x, and the right side by 5. So we have divided both sides by the coefficient of x. 5, we cancel 5, we are going to have 1. And 5, we go into 25, we have 5. So we have 1x equals 25. But in mathematics, we don't like writing 1x. So we just write it as x equals 25, equals to 5 rather. So the same thing applies if we have another expression like, say, 4p equals to 24. Okay? So in this case, the number that is frozen with p is 4. Okay? So 4p equals 24. We'll divide both sides by the coefficient of p. So by dividing both sides by the coefficient of p, you find out that 4 will cancel 4. We'll have 1p. 4 into 24 will give us 6. Will give us 6. So 1p equals to 6. Then we just write it as p equals to 5. So the following are some examples for you to practice. So you can practice the following equations. Solve the following equations. 3x equals to 12. 6m equals to 24. 70 equals to 21. So I would like to see your answer in the comment section below. If you have any question or any gray area or anything you want me to explain further, I would like to see your comments in the comment section. So do not forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification icon so that whenever a video is released, you'll be the first to see it. Alright, thank you very much. See you in our next tutorial.